All right, second video of the day. Welcome to the Mediocre Cover Band Guitar Guy, part 2 for Sunday. I got to ask a question about gigs and what was the worst gig I ever played. And I played a lot of stinkers in my lifetime, and I told a couple of them here. Told the one about we played a festival in a place called Spaniards Bay one time, and crowd were having none of it. None of us. We got there, the sound guy was working on the board when we got there. He had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, soldering gun going. We weren't allowed to use any of our own gear, only our guitars, and that was it. I wasn't even allowed to bring my pedal board on the stage. And what they had for backline was, wow. It was pretty bad. We had 2 crate practice amps. They had cables running out of headphone jacks directly into the PA. No DI boxes. No effects. I had a little foot switch that gave me the shittiest sound in overdrive I ever had in my life. And the drums probably had a full roll of packaging tape put on the snare drum. Okay? Because it was all beaten up and holes in it, and that was their solution. We'll put packaging tape on. Stage volume was really low. I've told the story before. Like we actually had a conversation on stage. And at one point, we were in the middle of a song. I think we were doing the Black Crowes, Hard to Handle was like the big bar tune, the big bar beater at that point. We were in the middle of that, and we look, and the singer's already off the stage and walking through the crowd, and he's like, "Fuck this, I'm done." So that was like pretty bad. Did a festival in a place called Canning's Cove, Newfoundland. We got there, and it was a whole day thing. And the younger people, we send everybody our set list, by the way, when we get hired. And they read over the set list, and they're like, "This is great, this is perfect." So, but the younger people that would go and dance and have a time and like our set list, were out all day drinking and playing a game of washers. And they had a tournament. So when we got there and we were ready to play, these people were home and in bed. They were having a nap because they were going to come out later. So we got stuck with, man, we're talking slacks, floral printed blouses, and everybody had the average age of death. Like, that's how old they were. So we played a song. We opened up with like a Tom Petty tune, and they were just like, and nobody got off their chairs. It wasn't until we hit the third set at 11 o'clock at night that the younger crowd came in, and we had an okay time. But, man, I'm going to tell you, those first 2 sets were pretty rough. Like, you could hear crickets. It wasn't good. Mentioned at the last of my last video, we used to play a place called Darnell's in Paradise. There was never anybody there. I got into an altercation with the gentleman who owned a bar one time. Not a physical. I was getting ready to... I had my gear on the stage. My amp was up there. My pedal board was there. Nothing was turned on, though. I decided while I was waiting for everybody, I would tune my guitars. And I had a little Korg tuner at the time that I carried as a backup in case the one on the pedal board gave up. And I was over by the side of the stage. They have these little barrels. I don't know what the purpose of these fucking barrels are. I suppose they were supposed to be rum barrels at some time. Anyway, I had the tuner laid up on the rum barrel, and I'm there with the guitar, and I'm not plugged into an amplifier. And the guy comes over, flipping his fucking lid out at me. And he said to me, "Do that when the rest of the band are there." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I didn't understand what he was getting at. He goes, "You don't need to be making any noise now until the rest of the fucking band gets here." And he's yelling at me and cursing at me. And I'm like, okay. And he keeps going, and he's telling me, like, I can get any fucking band I want to play in here, which he couldn't, because we were all trying to get the fuck out of there. And, which we all did eventually. Everybody quit, which is kind of funny, because in my last video I mentioned we should not play shitty bars. And anyway, we all ended up, nobody went back after a while. And other bars wouldn't hire you because you played there. It's like, you play there? I'm not having you here. Because obviously you're terrible. Because that's who plays there, terrible people. Anyway, And that was the public perception. Not that we were terrible or I'm saying anybody was terrible, but that's how we were perceived. And anybody can argue with me on that, but that's how we were fucking perceived for playing there. So that was a really bad night because I couldn't get anything wrapped around my head at that point in time. Um, that ranks right up there for me. And I guess I played a gig at a high school thingy one time, and my pedal board and amp shit the bed. The only thing left on my pedal board that I had a battery, and I plugged the distortion pedal into the actual mixer, into the PA, and we didn't have a sound guy, but we had a guy there who kind of knew a little bit about it. He was just as young as we were, which was really funny, but he knew how to get a bit of reverb dialed in for me so it didn't sound as dry, but it was really clanky. And I had to play the rest of the night with an Aaron distortion pedal that cost $59 out of Izzy's Music in Van Buren, Maine, which is now closed down. And I had to go through the rest of the night with that and wanting to shit my pants. And speaking of that, I've had gigs where I thought I was going to shit my pants, which weren't great gigs either. So here's a question. What was your worst gig?